Hello and welcome back to English for You and to day 2 of our story, The Beckoning Fair One by Oliver Onions. It's a ghost story, right, Chicolin?
Yeah, it is. And we had 2 characters yesterday from
We did.
Who are they?
We had the novelist Ollerson and his friend Elsie.
Oh, Oleron and Elsie.
Olleron, not Ollerson.
I was like, Oliver Onions. I kind of get confused with the writer of the story. Right?
So many O names.
Right.
Olleron and Elsie. And Olleron is a novelist, which means he writes books. And he was looking for a new place to maybe work and live, right?
Because it was really inconvenient for him to keep traveling from his home and to his studio.
Yeah, his bedroom was too small for writing, so he wanted to move somewhere closer to where he worked. And luckily for him, there was a house available.
Yeah,
right?
he rented this little apartment from an old building.
An old building that had been empty for a very long time. But his friend Elsie had a bad feeling about this place. I wonder if we'll discover why. Perhaps there's something going on underneath the surface. Well, let's get into day 2 of our story and find out.
Reading The Beckoning Fair One. This was to be the first of many arguments between Oleron and Elsie about the book and the apartment. Elsie often visited the apartment, but strange things had started to happen. On one occasion, a nail that Oleron was certain he'd hammered flat into a piece of furniture cut Elsie's hand. On another, Elsie's foot went through a wooden step and was badly hurt. It was as though the apartment didn't want Elsie to be there. And then one day, Oleron saw something that really scared him. It was a ghostly figure of a woman. A wide-eyed Oleron was so frightened that he ran out of the apartment and went straight to the pub. He eventually felt brave enough to return and was relieved to find the apartment empty. He decided to put the experience down to his imagination. Oleron couldn't feel it, but Elsie had noticed his behavior getting stranger. He had started talking to himself and kept wanting to keep her away from the apartment. He soon didn't want to see her at all.
So yesterday our story left off with Elsie thinking that Olleron's first version of his book was the best. She didn't think that he should write a new one. This is going to cause problems. The story begins today. This was to be the first of many arguments between Olleron and Elsie about the book and the apartment. Elsie often visited the apartment, but strange things had started to happen.
所以这边有一个主词 be V to V.
The story used the structure was to be, which is an interesting phrase structure. The original sentence said, this was to be the first of many arguments between Oleron and Elsie about the book and the apartment. So, was to be is used about someone or something in the past to say what would happen at a later time. But what's interesting about this phrase is that we can only use it in hindsight. That means from a position in the future when we know the outcome of what happened. So here's an example. This was to be our last class together. I can only say this sentence from the advantage of being in the future because I know that actually, yes, that class that happened a while ago was the last class. Here's another example. It was to be the last time that they would see each other. Again, I could only say this from the future because I now know that it was in fact the last time that they saw each other. Another example, it was to be a wonderful party. Yeah, the party turned out to be pretty good, but I only know that because it's already happened. Here's one last example sentence. It was to be the best performance of his life. So using was to be is using the past tense version, but there is a present tense version too. Is to be. An example sentence of the present tense version could be, this is to be the last time you are late for class. Now, using the present tense version, we're not talking about the past, we're talking about the present and how, in this example sentence, the class that we're having now will be the last time you're late for it. Something really, really bad is about to happen in the story. On one occasion, a nail that Oleron was certain he'd hammered flat into a piece of furniture cut Elsie's hand. Oof, this is turning into a horror story now. There's even blood involved. Let's take a look at the word occasion. The word occasion is a noun and it describes a particular event or the particular time that something happened. An occasion is a time when something occurred, which is a related word. It's an instance of something happening. An occasion is an important event, like a wedding or a party. Here's an example sentence. You have been late to class on many occasions this semester.
Occasion 就是时刻的时节，那在我们文章中出现的 on one occasion 指的就是有一次，那么它也可以指重要的盛会或者是场合，比如说 he has a blue suit which he only wears on special occasions。那这个字呢变成副词就可以当偶尔的意思 occasionally， 比如说 police cars occasionally circle the building。
Ooh, occasionally is kind of the same as saying sometimes, right? We also saw the word hammer, which can be a noun or a verb, though it was used as a verb in the story. To hammer means to use a hammer, which is a heavy metal tool with a flat end, and we use this to hit things. We use hammers mostly to hit nails into wood to build something. Hammer, the verb, means to do just that. We can use hammer in another special way too. To hammer something into someone means to repeatedly say the same thing to someone in the hope that they will understand or change their mind. Here's an example sentence. The construction workers have been hammering all morning. I can't sleep.
I hate that.
So common in Taipei.
I know, right? 所以 hammer 呢就是锤击，把什么东西锤进里面。然后这边是动词哦，老师刚刚有说当名词就是 hammer， 就是一个锤子的意思。那口语的话也可以指大力抨击什么东西，比如说 My voice has been hammered by a lot of producers， 代表他们觉得你不够好什么，这个也是当口语有这个意思。那所以有一次呢 Oleron 确信他已经用锤子把一个钉子锤到家具里面了，可是这个钉子却割伤了 Elsie 的手。
Seems like this apartment does not like Elsie. Something else is about to happen to her. On another, Elsie's foot went through a wooden step and was badly hurt. It was as though the apartment didn't want Elsie to be there. So at the beginning of this part of the story, when it said on another, what it meant was on another occasion. We saw the word wooden here, which is an adjective, and something that is wooden is made of wood. It's that simple. An example sentence could be, I carved a small wooden horse toy for my nephew on his birthday.
所以呢 wooden 就是木质的，那所以木质的地板呢就是 wooden floor， 那木质的盒子 wooden box， 所以形容人的行为也是可以。I can't show you my smile right now, but if you have like a really awkward one, you could say that your smile is kind of wooden， 就是有点僵硬的感觉。比如说 Let's take another picture. The smile you gave for the last one was a little wooden， 有一点僵硬。那所以这个字是来自于木头 wood 这一个字，所以这边文章中出现的 wooden step 就是木质台阶，所以 Elsie 还因为这个木质台阶受伤，就好像这个公寓本身就是 Elsie, get away from me, don't stay here, I don't want you here.
Is Elsie just unlucky or is there really something strange happening here? Well, let's find out. Let's get back to the story. And then one day, Oleron saw something that really scared him. It was a ghostly figure of a woman.
真的好可怕。所以呢这边有 ghostly 这个就是形容词，有像鬼的幽灵般的，它就是来自于 ghost 这一个字。那 ghost 你也可以说突然不跟人家联络， I didn't mean to ghost you, I just don't feel like talking to anybody. 当动词的时候啦。所以有一天呢 Oleron 看到一个很吓到他的东西，他就看到一个 女幽灵。
There's a female woman ghost in the apartment. So now both Elsie and Oleron have experienced bad things inside the apartment. What happens next? Well, a wide-eyed Oleron was so frightened that he ran out of the apartment and went straight to the pub. What all British people do in an emergency, we go to the pub.
Really?
Yeah.
OK. 那我们来看一下里面这个 wide-eyed 到底是什么意思。复合形容词呢，就是我们今天要讲的东西哦。那我们文章中出现的 wide-eyed 指的就是一个形容词加上一个 and 结尾加一个 ed， 那就来形容让它主要的目的就是要让一个文句更简洁。那我们文章中出现的 wide-eyed 指的就是睁大眼睛的或很惊吓的意思。所以类似的用法还有像 cold-blooded 很冷血的啊，或者是 open-minded 就是很敞开心胸的，或者是绿色眼睛的 green-eyed。那我们看几个句子。The entire nation has been shocked by the cold-blooded murder of the two girls. 或者是呢 Dr. Keating is very open-minded about non-traditional treatments.
So the story said that Oleron was frightened by the ghost. Naturally, you would feel scared. And that's exactly what frightened means. It's an adjective that means scared or afraid. Something that makes you feel fright. You feel frightened. Scary things can make you feel frightened, like ghosts or spiders. But daily situations can make you feel frightened too, like giving a presentation in class or being told off by your teacher. They can be scary as well. Here's an example sentence. Thunder and lightning storms make my pet dog feel very frightened.
所以呢 frighten 就是有害怕的或受惊的然后呢这边有一个 ed 结尾嘛，这就是你自己感到害怕。不过如果你把 ed 拿掉，就是让别人惊吓，要注意这些用法，或者是今天结尾如果是 ing 变成 frightening 代表是令人惊吓。我们看几个句子你们要比较一下，比如说 You'll frighten the baby by wearing that mask 或者是呢变成这个 baby 会被吓到，就是 The baby will be frightened if he sees your mask。或者是呢，你的面具是吓人的，所以 Your mask is frightening. Don't wear it, or you will frighten the baby.
So many ways to use one word.
真的。
So the story said that Oleron will run to the pub, and I said that's something all British people do in an emergency. And that's because a pub is something that you find very, very commonly in the UK. Pub, P-U-B, is a noun, and it's actually short for public house. But this is no house that I'm thinking of. It's a place where people go to drink alcohol and socialize. Pubs are very common in the UK, Ireland, and Australia, and some other countries too. A pub is kind of like a bar, though a pub might look a bit older in style, often inside very old buildings made of wood. Pubs usually serve food too, and they play music and sports on TV. Here's an example sentence. Every Sunday afternoon, our family goes to the local pub for lunch.
所以呢 pub 就是酒吧。那说到酒吧，我们来聊聊跟酒吧相关的英文。Can we go to a pub after this?
Yeah, there are some pubs in Taipei, actually. I think our listeners are a bit too young to go to the pub, but we can.
Oh, yeah. So, sorry. 等你们长大。所以这边有一个，我来看一下几个常见的，比如说调酒，就是 cocktail. Like my favorite one is pina colada.
Oh, with coconut, right?
Yeah, I love it so much. 或者是呢，这个我不敢喝，有点强，它就是 Long Island iced tea. Do you like it?
Not my favorite.
OK, 好。所以烈酒的话呢，我们可以说 spirits， 像是 vodka, brandy 这些都是比较烈的酒。那如果你今天要加酒啊，不是要加冰块的话，就是 I'll have a scotch on the rocks， 代表 on the rocks 就是加冰块。那如果不加，你就可以说 Well, I'll have a scotch neat， 代表你不要冰块。所以 Oleron 他就很害怕的逃出公寓，因为他看到这个可怕的女鬼，他就逃到酒吧去了。
Yeah, in pubs in the UK, people usually will drink beer.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have some snacks too. The legal drinking age in the UK is 18. Is it the same in Taiwan?
Yes, and in the States it's 21.
21.
Yeah, 好老哦。
Well, back to the story and more about Oleron. It says he eventually felt brave enough to return and was relieved to find the apartment empty. He decided to put the experience down to his imagination. Okay. He's braver than I am. I don't think I would go back to that house. Right. But eventually he did. Let's talk about the word eventually now. The word eventually is an adverb and it's related to time. Eventually means in the end, especially after a long delay, dispute, or series of problems. Eventually is kind of like the word finally. After trying so hard to do something, eventually is when the result finally happens. When we use eventually, the result could be positive or negative. We did do the thing we wanted to, or we didn't. For example, the rain didn't seem like it would stop, so we eventually decided to cancel the party. Or, after trying for many hours, I was eventually able to fix my computer. Here's another example sentence. After a long week of exams, I was eventually free to enjoy the summer break.
Eventually 就是最终或终于，那我们也有在文章里面看到 relieved 这一个字，这个字就是很欣慰的啦，或者是松一口气的，因为他回去没有看到女鬼，他就很 relieved。那它的名词就是 relief， 所以呢，他另外有说他 put A down to B， 代表他把 A 归因于 B， 代表呢他提起勇气回去看看公寓还有没有那个女鬼，然后发现都没有东西了，他就松了一口气，就决定想说好吧，可能我自己乱想了。
So he managed to convince himself that he didn't really see a ghost, he was just imagining things. Well, back to the story. Oleron couldn't feel it, but Elsie had noticed his behavior getting stranger. He had started talking to himself and kept wanting to keep her away from the apartment. He soon didn't want to see her at all.
所以他的 behavior 就是他的行为，所以其实我们也可以说一个人很 well behaved， 代表他很行为良好的。那如果行为不好，你可以说 badly behaved。那这边有说呢 keep someone away 就是使什么远离，所以其实 Oleron 他觉得这个公寓真的怪怪的，他就赶快叫那个 Elsie 不要再来，然后之后就再也都不想看到他。
So Elsie knows that there's something bad in the apartment. Oleron saw a ghost, but still his behavior is changing and it feels like the thing in the apartment is trying to get Oleron to break his relationship with Elsie.
Right.
Maybe the ghost lady has some kind of evil plan.
Or maybe she has a crush on Oleron.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Is this a love story and not a ghost story? We'll probably find out in day 3, but for day 2, that's all we have. Let's get into our For You chat question.
For You chat.
So our For You chat question for the day is this. Chickalin, do you believe in ghosts? If yes, have you ever seen one?
I think I do. Because, I've never seen one, but just because I've never seen one doesn't mean they don't exist.
Okay.
It's more like, I think they're there, but I just haven't seen them.
Okay. Sometimes you can feel them maybe around you?
I can't. I've never felt a lick of ghosts.
Okay.
Can you say that? But, what about you?
Do I believe in ghosts? I think I probably should say no. I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay, why?
Why? Because I believe in science. But also, there's no proof of ghosts.
True.
There's some videos or photos or stories, but there's no hard proof that ghosts exist.
That is true.
But I do sometimes have that creepy feeling when you're in a particular place that somebody's around you.
Okay.
And, I find the whole thing of ghosts and other creatures, monsters, vampires, I find it all very interesting. I like to hear the stories and watch the movies and read the books, but I don't think I actually believe them to be true.
Okay.
It would be pretty cool if they were, though.
Yeah, I would actually really like to see them.
Yeah, as long as they don't hurt anybody.
Yeah. I believe that they don't hurt people if you don't hurt them. Because as long as you're doing something out of your kind heart, I don't think anybody's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you guys can think about this question too. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you dare have this conversation even? Talk about it with your friends and maybe you can trade some ghost stories too. That's all we have for today. We'll see you tomorrow for the conclusion of the Beckoning Fair one.
Vocabulary Review.
Occasion. Betty usually exercises after work, but on one occasion, she went to the gym at 6 a.m. Hammer. Leon hammered a nail into the wall so he could hang up a picture in his living room. Wooden. Laura's father built a wooden house using the trees he cut down in the forest. Frightened. Stanley was frightened when his brother jumped out from behind the door and yelled, "Boo!" Pub. Jason met his friend at the pub to drink some beer and play some games. Eventually, our flight was delayed because of bad weather, but we eventually took off a few hours later.
字汇小补帖
Ghostly. Relieved. Behavior.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net